The laughter at the party was loud enough to drown my thoughts, but not my shame. I stood there, holding a small glass of water, pretending to smile while my son's wife, Emily, told the guests a story that had everyone laughing. Everyone but me. And then he used the wrong remote and turned off the TV instead of the fan, she said, clutching her wine glass. Bless him. He's still learning how technology works. The crowd chuckled. My son, Daniel, didn't stop her. He laughed too. The joke was about me. I forced a smile and looked down. Maybe it would have been harmless if it was just once, but she had made these little digs all evening. Every time someone came near, she found a way to make me look like an old fool. He forgets things sometimes, she said once. He's not used to modern life, she added later. To them, I was just the outdated old man who lived in their house. But what Emily didn't know was this. That house was still mine. My name is Edward Miller, 71 years old, a retired schoolteacher and a widower of 10 years. After my wife passed, I sold our small home and moved in with Daniel and his wife to be close to family. Daniel had insisted it would be easier that way. Dad, don't live alone, he'd said. We'll make sure you're comfortable. I believed him. I even used the money from selling my house to buy a new one. For them. I put it under my name, planning to gift it to Daniel later when I was gone. I thought that was what a good father does. But lately, I felt like a guest overstaying his welcome. Emily would sigh whenever I asked for help with my phone. She rearranged the living room and told me not to touch anything. Once, she even said, "This house would look so much better if it wasn't filled with old furniture." She meant my furniture. I stayed quiet because Daniel seemed happy, and I didn't want to cause trouble. But that night at the party, that humiliation, it broke something inside me. When the guests left, I sat quietly in the corner of the living room, staring at the fading lights of the garden. Emily came in, still in her sparkling red dress, holding a glass of wine. "Oh, Dad," she said, chuckling. "Don't take it personally, all right? I was just joking." "About me?" I asked softly. "Come on," she rolled her eyes. Everyone laughed. It was harmless. I looked at her and said nothing. Then she sighed, exasperated. "You really need to learn to lighten up. Honestly, Daniel and I were just saying, we need a bit more space. Maybe you could visit your brother for a while. It would be good for everyone." Her words cut deeper than any joke. She left the room before I could answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, surrounded by old photographs. My wife smiling, Daniel as a boy, our first family trip. I remembered how my wife used to say, "Don't let anyone make you feel small in your own home, Edward." That's when I realized this wasn't their home. It was mine. And maybe it was time to remind them. The next morning, I woke up early. The house was quiet. I made myself a cup of tea and watched the sunrise through the kitchen window. Then I made a phone call to my lawyer, Mr. Collins. "Edward?" he greeted me warmly. "It's been a while." "Yes," I said calmly. "I need to sell my house." "Your house?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, the one on Willow Lane." There was a long pause. "Are you sure, Edward?" "That's where your son lives." "I'm sure," I replied. 3 weeks later, the sale went through faster than I expected. I didn't tell Daniel or Emily. I wanted to see how long it would take them to notice. They were too busy planning their next vacation, too busy to talk to me, too busy to care. Then, one afternoon, the real estate agent came by with the new owners. I made sure Daniel and Emily were both home. Emily opened the door, confusion in her eyes. "Can I help you?" The agent smiled politely. "Yes, we're here to inspect the property before moving in." Emily frowned. There must be a mistake. This is our house. The agent glanced at me. Mr. Miller, is this your son and daughter-in-law? Yes, I said. And this used to be my house, but I've sold it. Emily's face went pale. You sold it? Daniel stepped forward. Dad, what are you talking about? You can't just... I can, I said quietly. It was under my name. I bought it. I paid for it. You two never even looked at the papers. Daniel was speechless. Emily's mouth opened and closed like she was gasping for air. Dad, Daniel finally said, where will we go? What are we supposed to do? You can stay for 2 more weeks, I said. After that, the new owners will move in. Emily's eyes flashed with anger. This is insane. You can't do this to your own son. I looked her straight in the eye. No, Emily. You did this to yourself. That evening, I packed a small bag and left before they woke up. I moved into a quiet retirement cottage near the seaside, peaceful, bright, and full of kind people who said good morning without judgment. Daniel called a few times. I answered once. Dad, I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. Emily realizes she went too far. We were just thoughtless. I sighed. Son, I love you. But respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. You let her treat me like a burden in my own home. I know, he whispered. I'll make it right. I hope you do, I said. For your sake, not mine. Months passed. I heard they'd rented a small apartment across town. Emily had stopped speaking to me entirely, which didn't bother me much. Sometimes I sit on my porch, watching the ocean waves roll in. I think about that night at the party, the laughter, the sting of embarrassment, and I smile, because that was the night I stopped being silent. That was the night I remembered who I was. And that was the night she lost the house. I built with love. Never mistake kindness for weakness. A humble man's silence isn't surrender. It's patience. And when that patience ends, the world learns the power of quiet revenge.